Alright, well, as I said at the end of the last crimper video, it's time to start working on the mower. Hauled this over here yesterday, had to rearrange the whole barn to get it out, but, well, I didn't have to rearrange the whole barn. I got it out and then I rearranged the barn to make stuff easier to get in and out, so that turned into a project. But, not gonna take the whole mower up to the shop today because, it's a pain in the ass to move when it's not hooked to a tractor. And I don't have all the parts I need for it yet, at least to be able to start working on the bar, so I'm not going to do that. But the reason I don't have all the parts is because I got one new guard, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to fit before I went and bought a whole rack of them to do the whole bar. I initially thought that I was going to be able to I thought I was just going to have to replace the sickles and not the guards. But the more I got to looking at these guards, they're just kind of rounded off. And I mean, they're not in terrible shape. They might work. But since a sickle is kind of like a set of scissors, you best make sure that both sides of it are in decent shape. So I figured, what the heck, I'll just go through and make it all new. That way we're not fighting it. So, like I say, first we got to get a guard off here. And now, we got to go over to my box of goodies. And I got new ledger plates. This is a, Chute sells a bolt-on conversion kit. They said it's good for up to a 12-foot bar, and then anything over that you got to buy a second kit to get the parts. But so that is the plan. I'm going to convert it over to bolt-on sickles. These guys right here, which we'll talk about in a minute, because that's what I'm going to be doing today. Yeah, looks about right anyhow. But better safe than sorry, especially since they're almost $9 a piece. Oh, I'm gonna have to get bolts too, because these are designed to work with plow bolts, not carriage bolts. Which also means I'm not going to be able to bolt it on. But that being said, it does fit. So I think we're good there. Definitely have to clean the bar up before you can go bolting them on. So there's a little bit of shit on the front of the bar there. It won't necessarily let it pull up quite square. But I think I'm safe to go ahead and order the rest of them, because you got two options. You got this one, which is for a 7/16 thick bar, and then you got another one which is for a 1/2 inch thick bar. So anyhow, I guess real quick I'm gonna go up while I still got time to get an order in and have them get it on a truck yet this afternoon. I'm gonna go up and order the rest of my guards and a bolt kit so that we got all new bolts for it. and then we will come back and start working on a bar. Which the nice thing is I don't even got to pull this bar out of it, because I got the one that's in it. I got this one, and then there's still another one hanging up there in the rafters. I got 3 bars with it. So what I'm probably going to end up doing, once I get this working good and make sure that the sickle selection I got for it, or the sickles that I selected to use on it, are going to work and whatnot, I'll get another set of sickles and some more bolts and convert another bar over, so that if one bar ever quits or starts cutting funky, you just slide one out, slide one in, and then the one you got out, you go through and do whatever needs done to replace the sickles on it, and you can keep right on mowing. So anyhow, we'll be right back. Alright, so slight change in plan. This was the bar that I showed you down there under the 66, and this is the one that was still up in the rafters. I went and got this one down because once I got this bar up on the bench and started looking at it, you can see, if it'll show up, the back of this bar where the ledger plates ride has got, well, maybe if I do this, has got a great big groove wore in the back of it from riding against the ledger plates. This bar shows almost no wear whatsoever. So apparently this bar is newer than this one. So if we're going to rebuild a bar, might as well use one with a good backbone, and we just won't worry about this one, at least for the time being. And I guess we'll have, when we pull the one out of the mower that's still in it, we'll have to inspect that and see if it's in any kind of shape. And if not, I guess I'll have to see what we can do as far as having another bar replicated. Because they're going to be made out of tempered steel for wear resistant, so it's not like, basically the only thing that's going to cut them is carbide. I mean, I'm sure you could probably use mild steel and have it heat treated, but then you got to find somebody with a heat treating furnace. So I don't know if there's companies out there that will make new sickle bars to, or copied to an original pattern. Although now that I look at it, yeah, because it's pretty much a standard 2 and, now I can't remember what that hole spread is, 2 5/16, 2 3/16. It's 2 something 16 bolt spread, which is a standard bolt spread, but then you get down here where the drive head is and it gets wonky because this bolt pattern, or this bolt spread, is wider. So you can't just buy a blank cutter bar and whack the end of it off to the length you need because of that hole spread. Although I guess you could buy a blank cutter bar, whack it off to what you need, and then put this hole spread in it, and that would be a lot less work than trying to replicate a whole bar. So anyway, regardless, on to what we've actually got to get, or what we've actually got to do here. So we'll talk sickle sections in a minute, but first we'll get this one apart so that I actually have a section loose to show you and explain why exactly I did what I did, or am doing what I'm doing, I guess is better way to put it. Okay, when you're all done, you end up with a bare piece of flat stock with a bunch of holes in it and a pile of junk. Once I started getting sickles off, I did notice that this bar is wore a little bit, but the ledge is wore on the top side, underneath the sickle, so it was harder to see. But it's not wore nearly as bad as that guy is, so still worth using this one over that one. So, I was gonna explain sickles real quick. Didn't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So this is a 3x3 3/4 top serrated, coarse serrated section. These are throwaway. Once they're dull, you pitch them. More often than not, you see the coarse serration on combines, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's all that they're a dedicated combine section. The original sections are 3x3 3/4 under serrated, which means the serrations are there on the bottom, and these are, that one shows up a little bit better. The bottom serration is, the whole intent of that is these are supposed to be sharpenable. So they get dull. They're actually, back in the day when sickle type mowers were common with rivet on sections like this, there was actually a sickle sharpener. You would pull the bar out of the mower, and there was some versions that you actually clamped on the bar and you could sharpen them on the mower, but more often than not they were bench mount or stump mount or whatever farmer style they had going on there. And you'd run the bar through it, and it had a grinding wheel on it that was meant to put the profile back on the sections. And the under serration is there because as you sharpen it, it would basically reserrate itself, because you'd eat back into the serrations and expose them again. And basically you could sharpen them all the way up until, you know, right about there where the serrations disappear, and at that point you'd take them off and throw them away. However, these types of sections, in my experience with the neighbor used to have before he bought his disc bind, they ran 2 International 990s, sickle type, and obviously these more often than not are considered hay mower sickles. If the hay was tough, if it was damp, if they were cutting in the morning, or cutting in the morning when the dew was on, or cutting in the afternoon, or cutting late in the evening when the dew was coming on, they just didn't seem to do as good of a job. And obviously, since they're a lot finer serration, they dull a lot faster. These guys on combines just seem to stay sharp unless you break a section or hit a rock or something and take a chunk out. These guys, even dealing in the dust and dirt you have cutting beans and wheat and whatever, just stay sharp forever and ever and ever, and they just seem to cut better. But they're not sharpenable. But that's why they're bolt on. When they're dull, take it off, throw it away, slap a new one on, you're done in 5 minutes versus pulling the bar out and resharpening it. So I'm going with these because I think they'll cut better. If not, I'm out. I think there's basically $30 worth of sections there. So, anyhow, that's the reason I'm going with this type of section versus that type of section. Shiny parts look good. Bolt-on sections versus rivet-on look even better. I did have to, the bolts they send you 3 different length bolts in the kit. The regular bolts that just go through the bar and the sickle, and then they got 2 different length bolts to go through the portion with the drive head. And the shortest of the 2 sizes was still just a fuzz too long, so I took a grinder and nipped the ends of them off. Back in here, they're probably not going to be, they wouldn't have done much, but here you don't want them catching hay, so. But no big deal to just take the cutoff wheel and zip them off real quick. I'm excited to cut hay. I don't know why. This is going to be lit. So, with that being said, I'm done for the evening. Oh, and before anybody mentions it, because I know there's going to be at least one jackass, I'm fully aware that there is a rivet tool that makes doing what I just did a whole lot easier to get them bars apart. But I don't have one, and my whole goal is to not have any rivet on sickle sections, so I'm not going to go out and buy a tool that I'm going to use one time and then not have a use for. So the way I did it was perfectly adequate. So anyhow, I just got a shipping notification that Shoop sent my my batch of guards and bolts for the bar, so don't know if I'm going to work on it tomorrow or not. I have to check the trailer over real quick because Thursday I'm going to an auction, which you guys will probably see that video before you see this video, so you will have known that already anyhow. But that'll be the reason I don't work on this tomorrow. If I don't work on it tomorrow, because I'm going to check the trailer over. So anyway, I guess we'll catch you guys the next time we go to work on this thing. Okay, well, after a week of other odds and ends, we're back working on the mower. Now that I got the sickle put all together, we can actually bring it up here to the shop and work on it. Really shouldn't take very long. All we got to do, everything we got to do is pretty much on the bar, and probably put new oil in the chain case. But before we start on that, we'll come over here and look at these, because on the last crimper video, when I looked at the brochure for it, a lot of people like that, so I figure we'll do it again. And before we look at that, we'll look at the operator's manual, because I'm only the second owner on this mower. Max got it, or it was delivered to the farm on June 19th, 1961. So I'm guessing he probably got it in time for second cutting. Unless it was a late first cutting, you never know with planting, but and I would guess that he got the crimper at the same time, since he bought the mower with the crimper drive already on it. So we will be consulting this manual later when we're working on the bar. But so this is again a 1961 print, so this is from the year the mower was bought. Got it behind an 880 again. This mower doesn't have the crimper drive or the crimper hitch on the back of it, so probably a different photo shoot than when they did that one, which this would have been the, I think if I remember right, that picture is in the manual for the, or in the brochure I got for the 95 and 97 conditioners. And this one covers the number 82 semi-mount, which is this guy, and the 356 3-point, which would have been that guy. Which the 356 was built for a pretty long time. So here's what we got. Compact close coupled flexible ball socket hitch. That's a mouthful. Follows contours independently of the tractor. Enclosed oil bath, positive roller chain drive. Truss type mainframe. Safety release permits entire mower to swing rearward, which is this right here. That's your stone strike release or whatever object strike release. It just pops the hitch loose from the bar and the mower swings back out of the way. And then the way it works, you should just either, if it works out right, back the tractor up and the mower will swing back into the hitch, or you go out and you grab the end of the bar and you can pull it around and snap it back into the hitch, depending on how lucky you are. My guess is if you're in a established hayfield, you probably weren't using that feature a whole lot. Top and pasture and stuff, you probably strike a lot more stuff. But there's a snap clutch inside the chain case. That'll scare the shit out of you when it goes off, because I've had that happen. It's loud. It's got the crank shield so the hay doesn't wrap. And then the 356 was, if I remember right, the 356 actually came out with the Super 55. I think the 356 is older than the 82, but don't quote me on that. But it was obviously the 3-point hitch. They used the same bar and everything, they just obviously put it on a different frame. Fits all standard 3-point hitches, perfect for Oliver 550, 500, or 440, and all models with power traction hitch, tubular mainframe, lift and balance spring integral to the frame, 3/4 inch cutter bar, 6 or 7 foot bar. And then if I remember right on these, when you pick the 3-point up, it would also bring the bar up, and then you set the 3-point down and it'd swing the bar back down. So that was how you lifted and lowered the bar, aside from just lifting and raising the whole frame. Had 3 different choices of guards. You had malleable steel, malleable and forged steel, and then one of them had a integral. Well, it's like the knives I got, where there's a separate serrated insert like that, and then the other ones didn't have that insert, and they were just were machined to a edge. And then this is an overview of the hay, rough overview of the hay line for 61. You had the 62T baler, or I guess it'd be a 62T or 62W, depending on if it was twine or wire tie. Mowers and crimpers, a 101 heavy duty baler, makes up to 180 pound 3-wire bale. 107 side delivery rake, which was Oliver's first 5-bar rake. Or no, was that a 4-bar? I can't remember. I think it was yeah, the 107 was a 5-bar. Because 5 bars are better than 4 bars because they run slower, they don't beat the crap out of the hay. And then the number 2 rake, which is what I got. Which the number 2 didn't hold on much longer past this point once the 5-bar rakes came out. So this would have kind of been its last stand. So anyhow, now that we've looked at that, lay this bar down and start taking off pieces parts. All right, first thing we gotta do is get the sickle out, which means we gotta unhook the pitman arm, which involves undoing the safety latch. This is your breakaway in case the sickle hangs up on something. Apparently it's a little sticky. Okay, I finally got the sickle loose. I had to loosen all the bolts on the hold downs because it was clamped in there so tight it wouldn't slide by hand. Which seemed a little excessively tight to me. Just enough room. Worst part about this mower is being semi-mount, you don't just move it. You almost have to pick it up with a forklift or have a hook to a tractor. Won't really know until you get the sickles off of it, but the back of that bar looks pretty decent. Okay, now go through and start replacing guards, and obviously stuff's got to happen in order because you got to put your hold downs and ledger plates back where they belong and whatnot. So I'll start off by replacing the ones that aren't tied up with anything, and we'll just work our way down the line rather than taking everything off and putting everything back on. Although, that being said, I bet there's enough of a rust imprint. It would be, or I could just take a picture, but it would probably be fairly obvious where everything was to begin with. Well, it's looking like this project's getting cut short for the day. There was a slight I guess you'd call it a misnomenclature on Shoop's website. So when you go to order these rock guards, you got two choices. You got the SH700, which is what these are, which is for a 7/16. They list as for a 7/16 cutter bar, which is what this is. And you've got the SH800, which is for a 1/2-inch cutter bar. Well, what they don't specify is apparently that 7/16 and or half measurement includes the thickness of the ledger plate. So you put this together, and I don't know if you can tell, but the ledger on the new guards is lower than the ledger on the old guards. So by the time you put this ledger plate on here, right now this is in line with the surface of the bar. You put the ledger plate on, now all of a sudden the sickle is going to be the thickness of the ledger plate below, or the guard is going to be the thickness of the ledger plate below the sickle, which kind of makes it hard to cut anything when you've got no shearing action. So I got to return these and get the 800s coming, which would be for a 1/2-inch bar, which is what this bar would measure once you put the ledger plates on. And get, yeah, so basically we're done for the day because I guess we can change the oil in the gearbox yet. I guess, yeah, that's really about all we can do is change the oil in the gearbox. So I guess I'll take all this stuff off and see where things go. Okay, now that I've went inside and ate some lunch and cooled down over my little rock guard debacle, that's still, you'd think they'd specify 7/16 bar with the ledger plate, or well, I guess it would be, what would that be? 3/8 plus the ledger plate would be 7/16, and then 7/16 plus the ledger plate would be 1/2 inch. Either way, you'd think they'd specify to measure your bar width over the ledger plate so that you know. Hopefully they'll change that. I doubt they will, but at least anybody who watches this video will know. Now, how do you drain this guy? Or did they do the same thing and didn't put a drain plug in it like they did on the... I'm not seeing a drain plug, so you must have to pull that cover. There was a little bit of water in there. Okay, I got the gearbox all opened up. I got to wipe a little bit more out of there. It's been slowly working its way down. But there was some pretty nasty, well, basically all the way up to the edge of this lip was filled with sludge, so I had to dig all that out. And I opened the top up just for inspection's sake, and I figured if it's got water in it, chances are this gasket needed replaced, and I dare say it did. But luckily, at least for the most part, the gaskets were kind enough to come out halfway decent. This one came out in one piece, this one came out in 3 pieces, but should be able to kind of tape it together enough to trace it out. So that's next, is get some gaskets cut. These appear to be cardboard. For what they're doing, I don't necessarily like that. Especially since that top cover technically is supposed to be removable for inspecting and adjusting the snap clutch. Not that that has to happen often, but it'd be nice if you did have to do it to not have to replace the gasket every time. So I'm going to make it out of cork, which should also seal up better if there's any imperfections in the casting and or the cover. So that's next. Okay, I got my gaskets cut. So in order to facilitate installation and overall just make them easier in the future, I'm going to put a little bit of Permatex on the mower side so that they'll sit in place and stay stuck. And then we will leave the cover side dry, so that if we have to pull the covers off, the gaskets will stay stuck to the mower and, in theory, not tear. Okay, gearbox is all buttoned up, filled up with clean oil, so should be good there. So the last thing I gotta do, or the last thing that I can do today, is I don't know when or where it happened, because it was in there when I got the mower, but my PTO lock button is MIA. So yesterday I got a TSC Special Universal Fix-It Kit, so hopefully it fits. That would be well, I guess I don't fully understand how they expect that to work. Unless this yoke is wider than normal. As the damn lock notch, when the right there would be at rest position, and the clearance notch is in line with the spline. When it's locked, it should be right about there. Well, that's about worthless. Well, this whole day was just kind of completely unproductive. Can't even fix my PTO shaft. I didn't even know that there was different sizes of pins for a 6-plying PTO shaft. I thought all of them with the push pin were the same dimension, but apparently not. So I have to go see. I'll have to run Monday and take that box back, or take that box to the UPS store so I can ship it back to Shoop anyhow. So when I'm over there, I'll have to see if I can find the correct pin. Hopefully. So anyhow, I guess, much as I wanted to have this done today and have it all in one video, that's not going to happen. So I guess it will just keep this one somewhat shorter. So I guess that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.